So what I'm going to do today is just do a quick presentation of some slides that I made, a little bit crudely with a mouse, not the greatest, but still. So this first one is shape and mechanisms of minds. The shape is universal regardless of the size of mind, or the mind that is coupling to space-time. So regardless of the complexity of the space-time elements, whether it's molecular or an organism, the geometry is always the same, the shape. As we can see here, we have alert entanglement and dissociated entanglement. One has a strong body connection, and the dissociated entanglement has a weak body connection. What this means is that the mind is more strongly entangled with the body when it is in an alert state. An extreme example would be in a high fight or flight mode and the amygdala is firing away. Your mind will be fully in the body. Whereas dissociated states, we could say pre-sleep or sleep, meditative, in certain types of flow states. The mind then becomes a little looser, more diffused from the body, and allows you for different types of information exchange and experiences. And on the right here we can see that there is a nesting of the geometry of minds. The nesting is, as it shows, for qualitative feedback loops. This is informing each other from large to small scales. And this is beyond time. This is the mental layer. It doesn't pertain to time. So in real time, information being passed back and forth. As it states there on the bottom right, brainwaves are the mind embedding from whole body to the sensory system through entanglement. Entanglement is the attention of the mental layer that exists beyond time. And so now to focus on the weak body connection, which is the primary focus here, is the most important aspect. I think the strong body connection pretty much speaks for itself. We can think of things like dreams, why we have certain types of dreams, and why we remember them even though the body and all its sensory elements are closed. Yet we remember the dreams as being visual and experiential, whereas usually the brain is the sensory experience hardware which we experience things through. And so, going further than dreams, there are also other experiences when we're in the weak body connection. Some of these other experiences are out-of-body experiences, for example, and near-death experiences. And what is happening here is that the mind remains entangled, albeit mildly. It remains entangled with the body, yet it dislocates from the body, creating a clone, an entanglement, a cloned version of itself, separate. It bilocates. And it bilocates through attention. Wherever the attention of the mind is, this is where the mind will entangle itself too. It works through intention. It's pretty simple. The whole point of the coupling tetrahedrons is to create a focus of attention within the middle. And so, even though we're seeing what is called a macabre, It's the attention through the macabre which creates spin. This is what creates fields. From macro to micro scale fields is macabres oscillating slowly or fastly, depending on the size, which creates spin. We call this waves, or from the small scale, we call this a proton. Spin is the result of reinforced attention. The double interlocking tetrahedrons only appear due to attention. Well, I'll explain that in a later slide in a bit more detail. When dissociated strongly enough, the mind will experience whatever space and time it puts its attention to. The more aware one becomes of this mechanism, the more one controls and directs it. Telepathy, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, and other extrasensory phenomena are all down to this dislocating of the mind. The mental layer can relocate a copy of itself anywhere at any time, as it doesn't pertain to space-time. Information transfer within the mental layer happens outside the usual constraints of space and time. It says it right there. All self-organizing DNA agents act as anchors for the resonant geometry within the mental layer until the organism is no longer viable. The mechanism is a nested, embedded feedback loop from larger to small mind, top down, so each agent in its corresponding environment can reach its highest potential goal. The goal is first given on the highest order of mind, and all other goals align to this larger goal. And to use one example here as an explanation of something that we are starting to unravel, will be telepathy. As we can see on the left, we have a dissociated child thinking of the parent. And on the middle, we have the parent shopping. The child has the blue mind. The parent has the orange beige mind. As you can see, the child's mind, due to its attention, has now surrounded the parent's head, because this is the parent's sensory element. And the child is now experiencing what the parent is doing, what the parent sees, feels, does. The child now filters the experiences of the parent in real time through a shared vector. The vector exists beyond space and time. There is only the present moment of attention involved in both the parent and the child in this particular scenario. And as you can see, the two macabres are overlapping as these nest down throughout the whole body, over the head, into all. There are infinite trillions of minds scaling in and out. I say minds, what I mean is energy. There are masses of energy constantly entangled throughout the whole body. Trillions and trillions. If you think of how many cells you have in your body, and then all these cells have their own molecules, and these things are constantly interchanging, exchanging information beyond actual space-time. This is how you exist. You are a full being of full entanglement. The mental sublayer is not subject to space-time constraints. Mental to mental causality is responsible for entanglement at all scales. It is also the mechanism for information transfer through embedding. And here you can see there is a more closer geometric nesting concept of how the minds will nest in and out, the information coming in and out, relaying back and forth. And here is another slide, just if we were to imagine that the parent is also telepathic and is also responding to the connection of the child, then this would create two overlaid minds, both in the real time. This is how you would exchange information back and forth over real time, regardless of space, because it is the attention of the two minds on each other's minds. This creates a vector space for information to flow back and forth. When two agents have their attention on each other in their own spaces, this opens a two-way coherency. In this slide, as the brainwaves and mind lose strong connection, as is with the feeling of envy, lust, love, or the taste of chocolate, or the synesthetic feel of the wind near the waves. Vision also is an attribute of the mind, not of the body. It is the mind that concentrates its attention on the body, is anchored to the body. During dissociated brain states, such as meditation, remote viewing, and telepathy, it is common for people to report the geometry of the compressed interlocking tetrahedrons, often reported as an eye. And you can see this through all cultures from the beginning of what we call history, what we have recorded as our history of all humans and all cultures. You will find always some form of interlocking tetrahedral geometry at the center of their teachings, because there have been particular people who were revered for their knowledge or abilities to attain knowledge that would pull back this same imagery, this same geometry, as they would ask fundamental questions for their growth and understanding. It is the compressed state that creates the standing wave of any agent or observer across all scales of complexity. And here you see as the tetrahedrons compress themselves, whereas attention becomes more focused. This is often why people report seeing an eye in forms of meditation or other dissociated brain states. The brain filters the experiences of the mind that behaves as embedded waves, transferring experiential information through embedding and entanglement. These things are just innate to our existence, all existence, whether it's a rock, a star, a group of people, whether it's a cultural, societal movement. These things are all triggered by waves. The body acts as a sensorial two-way feedback filter to anchor the attention of the mind in the environment. So here's a quick slide of embedded nesting beyond space-time. As you can see from my images, there is a macabre within a macabre, so interlocking tetrahedrons, earlier known as a macabre. And within inside the brain also are multiple tetrahedrons, interlocking tetrahedrons. These create waves. We see them as waves, but from the mental layer, it's all tetrahedrons all the way down. Also the embedded symbol here on the bottom left. And in the middle is a recent paper released with some studies on the brain waves of mice. And they're starting to see a little deeper. They're starting to also realize that there are waves, there are vortices of waves within waves, within waves. And these waves are passing information around the brain beyond time. It is the clockwise rotation of the waves moving around the brain that are the attention from the mind that trigger spiking in neurons. It triggers the neurons to direct the body, hormones to release, motor functions to move based on the mind's experience. It's the mind that is experiencing, and then the body that is acting and reacting. And now, why two interlocking tetrahedrons? Why have I chose this? Or why am I trying to explain this as a mechanism from the mental layer through to physical waves, and then the waves through to the physical chemistry? Down on the bottom right, we can already see just a generic standard concept of how we're visualizing quarks based on experiments, many repeated experiments. Quarks, and then the gluons between the quarks. The quarks always come across in a triangle, a triangular geometry. This is due, as you can probably guess, to the tetrahedral form. One surface of the tetrahedron is triangular. So we already start to uncover tetrahedrons within the center of the proton when they become excited, or as I would say, when they are under attention. When the mental layer couples its attention at the smallest scale, a proton is formed. As you can see, with the oscillation through attention over time, the interlocking tetrahedrons expand and compress. They expand and compress as attention is focused on them over time. This generates a spin. Because these two tetrahedrons are not identical, they're not perfectly symmetrical, there is a slight difference. It's very slight. This is what is able to create spin. I'll go even further and say that the difference is not just size. The difference is that one tetrahedron is the future of the space-time, and one tetrahedron is the most likely past. The difference between this future and past at the microscopic scales is so small that we won't even be able to measure this. We call this the Planck length. It's immeasurable with our technology at this moment. But this is what it is. It's an antenna for the most likely future and most likely past, and in the center is the attention of the present moment. Initial motion of tension, attention. Angular geometry under tension and compression as the cause of angular momentum at all scales of the observer or agent. The finest to the greatest structures adhere to the same geometry. Anatomy of mind is universal at all scales. And even wilder and more radical than that, I will say there is only one set of tetrahedrons throughout the whole universe. It just doesn't exist in time or space. It only couples due to environmental relationships. It is the relationships that are the creative aspects of everything. And now I'll show how I perceive a mind, or how I perceive a being, when I am in a dissociated state, when I am either out of my body or I am in some form of very relaxed, dissociated state, and I put my attention on a specific person, or I communicate with some type of being, whether it's embodied or not. Obviously, the form of the human body here is representative of me focusing my attention with my own mental energy through entanglement on a particular individual. And sometimes I will see just the interlocking general tetrahedrons of the whole thing, or sometimes I will see the body and the rippling of the fields created by the interlocking tetrahedrons throughout the whole body. This is a hard image to try and recreate with technology and for our eyes. As when you see with the mind, when you look with your mind, you are looking at a whole different spectrum of light and a whole different relationship of elements of waves that are all interlocking and phasing, and there is no still movement like on a physical body. It's not still. It's phasing. Everything is phasing and changing. And I think that's it. So, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. Stay curious.